um, idea germinated from the tour that I did for the British Arts Council. Uh, and that originally, I think, was the idea of Nick Purnell, who works in conjunction with the Arts Council through his organization.
Yeah,
the whole, and he suggested doing a large ensemble consisting of a combination of English and of British and American musicians.
Right.
And I forget where the instrumentation came from.
Yeah.
I think that between between Nick and Gil Goldstein, we settled on three. That combination, I think, was 3 strings, 2 woodwinds, and 3 brass, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And
the quartet.
Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, it was. I mean, because it was an unusual sound for starters, and obviously, Gil had. Did you just sort of request him to do the arrangements?
Yeah, just said, Gil,
have a go.
We agreed at the on the tunes that he would arrange, and they came mostly, if not all, from old records.
Right.
Of mine, and he arranged and orchestrated them and conducted it.
Yeah, because I mean, so in retrospect of that, and how you obviously sort of got that together, how did you then sort of think, well, I'm going to start writing for an ensemble?
Well, I didn't even make the determination then. I just thought, well, this would be actually a great concept for an album, and it would be fun to maybe record this music,
Absolutely.
But I started writing. Somewhere in that time, I had some time off, and I kind of got on a roll, and just started writing a lot, and started arranging. I wasn't even, hadn't really thought about that, but found that I just somehow started hearing parts, and
brilliant.
And one thing led to another, and I came up with a group of arrangements as well as compositions.
That's fantastic. And how did Gil interact with what you did? You just pass on things, or were you sitting there together? Or?
Well, we talked quite a bit, and then when I had music ready, each composition I would give to him, and he would run with it. And essentially, what I gave him were the tunes, and these arrangements, which were somewhat orchestrated as well,
right?
But just not orchestrated very well,
right?
But the ideas were very clear,
right?
And the sections were clear, the kind of the shout sections and the interludes, and all of that stuff. And then Gil, this was actually a real collaboration. Gil was able to take those arrangements, add to it a bit, augment it, and orchestrate it far better than I could.
Yeah, it's incredibly. I mean. And obviously the Brecker brothers was a cherished kind of period of your recording and artistic life, but those arrangements have always gone down in horn section history as being kind of, that's a benchmark that people aspire to or have been influenced by. But these kind of go way beyond anything that you kind of did there in terms of subtlety and complexity and stuff. I mean, are they a kind of an extension of those sort of ideas, or?
Well, those ideas are in there, and a lot of that I think. Certainly comes from my brother Randy. He was a really good composer and arranger as well. So that that stuff is in there. It's always in the mix. And I was very influenced by Randy, being the younger brother.
Right.
But not even so much that. I mean, the younger brother thing is certainly there. Again, I kind of wanted everything that he had when we were kids. Which is kind of normal. I see that with my kids. But it also turns out that Randy is extremely talented. And came up with a way of writing that, both of arranging and writing that was unique, it was fresh, and it had a big impact on me as well, as well as a lot of people in my generation. And so that was in the mix.
Cool.
But I wasn't, when I was writing these things, I wasn't really thinking about any particular person. There's certainly no, big band or classical.
No, because I was going to say the style. I mean, and I use the word loosely, but I mean, it is touching on classical motifs, and then a bit of classic big band, and then there's even a little bit of funk floating around somewhere. I mean, it obviously seems that you were freely associating, as it were, melodically.
Kind of. I didn't have anybody in particular in mind, or any style in mind. I just kind of,
No, it's fantastic. No, and I mean, obviously your quartet as well is kind of the linchpin to sort of underpinning a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the fact you chose Patitucci, you know, I know you've worked with him extensively in the past.
That was important to me, though, to have John.
I mean, what did he sort of bring to the thing?
He brought a strong rhythmic bass, you know, and a great vibe, you know, which I really needed. John is an amazing musician, that goes without saying, but also he's a very positive presence in any group of people. He just brings an enormous power, both through his playing, which, you know, virtuosic playing, but also, you know, in his personality and his kind of positive approach to artistic endeavors. That was important. You know, Gil also had a really lovely idea, which I kind of ran with. He suggested that we not use a piano.
I noticed that, the difference between the original sort of double septet, or sextet rather, exactly, and Adam Rogers is just brilliant.
Yeah, Adam was the perfect choice because he can, you know, play the guitar so damn well. You know, that idea shocked me at first. I thought, wow, because I originally had piano in mind, but when he mentioned it, you know, it made sense to me because we have this orchestra that can be the piano.
Exactly.
And I think it left a much more open palette to work with.
Definitely, and I mean, you know, I was going to mention Adam. I mean, because you did a gig with him in St. Lucia that got some really great things said about it over here, and that was sounded like a pretty amazing night with that little band, you know, Clarence Penn and who was on bass, Larry Grenadier.
Yes, that was just kind of a one-time thing. We just kind of zipped down there and did it. I got some good footage from it.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Excellent.
Funny things that happened.
Right, cool. You've got to enjoy yourself, man.
Yeah.
And then just really lastly, in terms of just the core band, I mean, Antonio Sanchez, is he the guy who's been playing with Pat Metheny?
Yeah, and I wasn't really that familiar with him until Pat started, you know, really suggesting strongly to me that I check him out for this project. And Pat, got a series of emails from Pat saying, check this guy out. You know, you'll like him. And then I went and heard him with Pat and heard some other things, and I just went on a gut feeling that maybe, because Pat has never steered me wrong before, and he was a very important piece to this puzzle because, you know, he can pretty much play anything with incredible time. And, you know, stylistically, he's very broad. His dynamic palette is remarkable. And he brought, you know, a whole other set of kind of sensibilities to the table, put them on the table very nicely. And it worked out really well. I needed him. It turns out I relied on him during these, you know, sessions.
Right.
And the music went down very easily. I was surprised.
Right.
We recorded the whole thing live in 3 days.
Wow.
And it went very smoothly. I mean, I believe in doing homework.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we showed up very prepared, but the music was challenging, kind of unusually written, and challenging for everybody, including ourselves. And the hard part actually became mixing it.
Right.
That was the part that I got a little bollocksed, and and you know, we managed to come up with mixes that I can live with, but it was very hard. You know, I had to settle for the fact that you're not going to hear everything at all times.
I know, that's really the case, isn't it? Because I mean, on the very first tune, when your horn comes in, it's obviously noticeably louder.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to show that you're the leader here, you know, and you're carving.
That was one of the harder ones to mix.
Right.
We had it in we tried various approaches. Right. We even tried kind of compressing the horn, but it sounded artificial.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, exactly. When you've got an acoustic project, or more or less acoustic project, you know, you don't want to be messing with too much studio technology, do you?
It begins to sound, as we say, desky.
Well, yeah.
It's desk, you know, from the desk.
Exactly.
The computer desk.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely. And with some of the soloing that you're doing around, like, a lot of the arrangements, because there's so much going on, you're obviously having to choose where you go on top of it really carefully. And I mean, were you, like, sort of obviously again preparing yourself for certain passages in the piece that you were thinking of this idea, and then, or was it a lot of just gut kind of instinct playing?
Pretty much knew where I was going to play.
Right.
I kind of have to know when there's this many people involved most of the time. There was actually there were quite a few sections that were open, that were collaborations between the orchestra playing freely and me as well. But I knew where they were going to occur.
Right.
Because you kind of have to.
Of course.
But we got a good balance of some really kind of just spontaneous blowing on everyone's part.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, and every time someone takes a solo, it's immediately kind of shifts the whole balance of the thing away from just being a sax record. It's a total ensemble thing.
You got just then a very good ankle snap.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry. We can put some effects on that.
Put some reverb.
Spin it around and put it in stereo. Yeah, and I mean, you've been doing, I mean, obviously just slightly away from this specifically about the album, but you've just been doing so many different projects in the last couple of years. I mean, I've seen you with Pat Metheny, with the double sextet, solo, and then of course with Directions in Music. I mean, you're constantly stimulating yourself as a musician. I mean, you never seem to get tired of it. I mean, is it?
Well, I think that's what keeps me from getting tired of it, is the stimulation. I seem to need that and enjoy that, and I don't want to just I don't want to relax.
No.
I don't mind relaxing in other areas, but somehow in music I want to keep. I really can't explain why.
No.
I want to keep just testing new waters, at least in places that are new for me.
Sure, because with your soloing, it seems to be going up another couple of gears in the last.
Thank you.
I've really noticed it. I think a lot of people have noticed it actually.
I think it's because I'm playing with really good people.
Yeah.
And it forces me. I can't help but try and stretch further. I've had great opportunities to playing with my favorite guys.
Of course.
My favorite musicians, and they kind of do the same thing, and it rubs off on me.
Yeah. I mean, and you've obviously, well, I mean, your technique and your sort of, you're kind of working out certain things. I mean, is this something that you have to obviously work up to over a period of time, or is it? I mean, do you take time off from the sax and just leave it in the house and
go
for a walk?
I maybe once a year. I did it. I just in deference to my wife.
Right.
When we take a vacation, I usually bring it. But it, depending on the type of vacation, we just took a vacation finally in Cape Cod, in the Orange State in the case.
Right.
But generally, I don't like to lose contact.
No.
You really can. It's a challenge to play any instrument.
Cool.
And I find that I'm uncomfortable if I'm away from it for even a short period of time, because I just feel the muscles getting weak, and it's hard to work back.
Exactly, yeah.
And for brass players, for wind players, for players of any instrument,
Sure.
I don't care what people say. I've heard guys say they don't practice. I don't believe them.
Well, it's a case of what you practice, isn't it? It's not really about just
what
doing
you
the scales over and over again.
It's the way you practice. It kind of reflects the way you play as
Definitely.
well.
I mean, I play a bit of bass on in the side, so and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's exactly like that.
I remember, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but
please do.
When I was in college, in my kind of brief tenure in college, a friend of mine attended, a guy that I was rooming with attended a Ravi Shankar concert that was at the college. I couldn't go for some reason. But he happened to be in a place after the show that he was in a hallway, I guess, after the show that Ravi happened to be walking by, so he had a chance to talk to him for a second. He asked Ravi Shankar if he still practiced. And Ravi just looked at him and said, "No vacation." I never forgot that.
That's all you need, isn't it? Really, it's just kind of one expression and just. I mean, one thing I was going to say to you is when you are soloing, because for me as a sort of a part-time musician or just someone who loves music, I mean, what you're doing when you are soloing, I mean, where do you ever have any one specific starting point? I mean, obviously you do.
Sometimes, but a specific starting point occurs in the moment.
Right.
So there is a starting point, but hopefully, and most of the time, it is very much in the present moment. And you know, I mean, I'm essentially practicing when I'm playing. And most of the musicians I know, I sort of believe in practicing on the bandstand. You know, something that I've come to embrace over the last few years. Not trying to play on the bandstand what I practiced earlier, but just kind of continue that process.
Exactly. And it brings a freshness to whatever you're trying to do, doesn't it? Yeah. Because if you're getting there and you almost reach it, then the next time you can go again.
Yeah, it's more almost, it's more the getting there than the place you're trying to reach.
Exactly. And in terms of, I mean, if, you must get, I mean, obviously hundreds of people that you meet over the course of touring and, whatever, just general sort of life, asking you, how do you play a good solo, or what do you say to someone who asks you, what constitutes a good solo? Or
well, there's no real easy answer to that, I don't think.
No.
I know for me that is listening is probably the listening aspect of the soloist is maybe more important than the actual playing. It's hard to explain where that's coming from, depending on the people you're playing with, and depending on the context, and but certainly listening and kind of reflecting the moment as much as possible, and then bringing everything else to bear.
Right.
Every experience, both musically and non-musically, and I guess a certain amount of trust as well. Not only in yourself, but in the fact that trust the process, the improvisational process that's going on as a group, and then some real magic can happen.
In terms of what you personally feel about keeping jazz fresh for today's audience, I mean, how does one go about doing that sort of thing?
Not sure I can answer that intelligently. I do think that that jazz, or for lack of a better word, kind of improvised music, or music that's partially improvisationally based, is doing very well today. Maybe not on a commercial level, but in the hands of some really, really talented musicians, both younger and musicians that have been around for a while.
Definitely.
There's certainly a lot of talent and drive coming from the younger set, and creative. I'm talking about creative drive that I think is only made stronger by the dire straits commercially that the music is in. I think it's actually having a good effect on the people really trying to play creative music. Music is powerful. I'm hearing a lot of really great younger players who are not just playing well, but playing creatively and writing creatively. And I see that happening in Europe. I see it in England. I see it in Japan and in the United States. And for me now, as an older guy, it is refreshing, and it keeps me on the right path as well.
Definitely.
And I think that it may be the reason for that is because we have to.
Exactly. I mean, and like you say, maybe it is a good thing that the commercial side of it is failing.
The commercial side of it is just, in terms of pop music. I mean, there's, I don't want to denigrate pop music because there's great,
and there always has been.
There's great things happening out there. But on a grand scale, it's on a kind of corporate level. It's so difficult to get things that are sort of independent to be heard.
Exactly.
That in a way, I think it's strengthening